It's important to take the time to frame your object up as best as possible. I'll be able to get the Running Man Nebula in there as well with plenty of room to spare. In my last video, I used an interesting astrophotography setup that included a camera lens in place of a telescope. A lot of people ask me why they should use a telescope when they've already got an existing telephoto camera lens. The truth is, if you've been into photography for a while and you've got some lenses, you should use them. Make no mistake, a telescope has many advantages when it comes to deep sky astrophotography. But there's a good chance that some of the camera lenses that you already own are going to be absolutely great for deep sky astrophotography. In this video, I'll show you how you can take an incredible portrait of the Orion Nebula using a prime telephoto camera lens like the Canon EF 300mm f4. This is a Canon EF 300mm f4L USM lens. This is the old one that doesn't include image stabilization, IS. You can't use features like autofocus and image stabilization for astrophotography anyway, so it's not a huge deal. These old lenses are a great value in the used market. I actually picked this one up used on a local classified site several years ago. When it comes to deep sky astrophotography, it's beneficial to have a number of prime lenses at different focal lengths. With a crop sensor DSLR like my T3i, it will effectively create a focal length of 480mm with the crop factor of 1.6. This is a rather wide field of view, which is perfect for targets like the Orion Nebula, Running Man, and the surrounding area. Most of the telescopes I recommend for beginners hover around the 400 to 700mm focal length range, so this 300mm telephoto camera lens is quite comparable. The fast optics of f4 are beneficial for capturing images at night. It will allow me to capture more signal in a shorter period of time. For comparison, my Skywatcher Esprit 100 ED has a focal ratio of f5.5. The camera is a Canon Rebel T3i DSLR. Now, it's been modified for astrophotography, which isn't nearly as technical as it sounds. Basically, the internal IR cut filter has been removed, and it now has the full spectrum mod. In front of the camera sensor, I've got an Optolong L Pro, which is a broad spectrum true color filter for deep sky imaging from the city. I have a full review on this filter if you want to check that one out. It's a great filter to use on an object like the Orion Nebula to get some of those natural star colors. The great thing about a clip filter like this is that you can use it with a camera lens attached. So it just sits right underneath the camera lens, and now I can use that filter with the 300mm f4. The iOptron SkyGuider Pro is the perfect solution for anyone looking to get into deep sky astrophotography using a DSLR camera and a telephoto lens. With the counterweight attached, it can handle heavier lenses like this 300mm f4 or even a small telescope. For this mount to be effective, it must be accurately polar aligned. Luckily, in the northern hemisphere, we have the North Star Polaris to use as a guide. Accurate polar alignment and balance of the imaging payload are by far the biggest factors to consider when it comes to capturing a steady deep sky image on a mount like this. That bright moon certainly isn't helping me capture the faint dusty details around the Orion Nebula. Luckily, M42 is such a bright and vibrant nebula that it can be enjoyed in less than perfect conditions. I've photographed this target so many times and it never gets old. Here's a look at the settings I'm using here. I'm actually going to use ISO 800, and I'll take a little test shot for you. So you'll be able to see the field of view using a 300mm lens with a crop sensor DSLR like the Canon T3i. It's important to take the time to frame your object up as best as possible so you can see the Orion Nebula there in the center of the frame. And at this field of view, I'll be able to get the Running Man Nebula in there as well with plenty of room to spare. A camera lens like the Canon 300mm f4L is a great way to get started in deep sky astrophotography. The key is to have a tracking mount so you can take long exposure images that are free of star trailing and capture lots of detail on your target. The images I capture using this kit right here, I'll bring into a free software called Deep Sky Stacker to register and stack the images for an improved signal to noise ratio. From there, I'll take the image into Adobe Photoshop for some further processing. If you want to get a better idea of how this process works, look at some of my other image processing tutorial videos on YouTube. Whether you're using a camera lens, a telescope, or just a pair of binoculars, I hope that you're able to get out and enjoy the impossible beauty of the night sky that's above us. Until next time, clear skies.